I'd like to welcome you all to the regularly scheduled board meeting. If you would, please stand for a moment of silence and the Pledge of Allegiance. And pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item number 1, review of the agenda. Does anybody have any changes or? Oh, Sherry. I need to have a work session today again.
Okay, and the days.
We gotta discuss and figure out which day, because we don't know. So that does need to be added.
We make a motion for it.
Yeah, we're gonna go, if nobody else has any, we'll, yeah, you can go ahead. Where'd we put that last time? Under internal?
Yes.
Okay.
You don't need to change anything?
We haven't got to that yet.
Okay.
Okay. Item number 2, adoption of the agenda.
Move to adopt.
I'll second.
Sherry.
I'd like to add a work session date.
Oh, do we need to go back?
We'll need to go back to the review.
Back to the review then.
Okay.
If you'll withdraw your
I'll
motion.
withdraw
at
my
this-
motion.
Sorry, Gordy.
It's all right.
Okay, so that would be 13A
What are we doing?
We're gonna add a work session date.
for the March regular meeting. Okay, so she needs a motion to
So she wants to move to
add a work
add,
session.
so just make sure there's a consent that nobody objects to that.
That's a line item that we establish a work session date.
Yeah, 13A or 13B, whatever how you want to do it, Scott. 13A is fine.
Now you go move to adopt the agenda.
Now we'll move to adopt the agenda as amended.
So just an amendment?
Yes.
Okay. Motion by Mr. Peridot. Now you can second it.
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Richardson. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Before we go any farther, I would just like to ask you all, would it be okay if I just said the number that we're on and not read all this? Because I'm really having a hard time with my vision tonight.
I think it'd be highly efficient. Everybody in the audience has the agenda.
Yeah. does
We all
anybody-
have one.
Does anybody have a problem with that? Okay. Thank you. Okay. Item number 3.
Just want to note that in item number 3 on February 10th special meeting, there was language that was just recently added in the agenda, so it's not online. So I'll just read it. Number 037. Motion was made by Mr. Heisel, second by Mr. Peridot to adopt the agenda. Mr. Todd requested that the motion be amended to discussion only of the superintendent's contract. But Mr. Heisel did not wish to amend this motion. Motion carried 3-2 with Mr. Heisel, Ms. Richardson, Ms. Ritchie voting A, Mr. Talby, and Mr. Peridot voting no. I think it was just a section of where I requested to amend it that was left out that was recently put in. So in case someone has pulled that up at home.
I also had a question about this meeting as well because of the mix-up with the notices, and I just talked to Ms. Ritchie for a little while, just asked Mr. Thomas if he'll just verify that our meeting was a legal meeting, that we did everything that we could do. It was not posted in the Winchester Sun, we know that. I didn't see it on our website, but somebody said it was on our website.
It was on our website and posted at the facility. 61.823 is the special meeting rule. It says that in order to have a special meeting, the presiding officer, a majority of the members have to call the meeting. That was complied with. The second thing is that the public agency shall provide written notice of the special meeting. We did provide written notice. It consisted of the statutory requirements of date, time, place, and the agenda. And then as soon as possible, written notice would be delivered personally, transmitted by facsimile machine, or mailed to every member of the public agency as well as the media organization which has filed a written request. That was complied with. We actually have confirmation from the Winchester Sun that they got it outside the 24-hour period. So everything that we are required to do under the statute has been complied with, and it constituted a lawful special meeting.
Just for informational purposes, I have an email we emailed the paper to see if we could figure out what had happened, and the response we got back was, Ms. Arlene, we've been having issues with our calendar software that we use. There were several events that were inadvertently missed last week. Not sure what happened to the February 10th one. I'll keep a better eye on it and see what's going on with it. You can continue to email me as you have been. My apologies for the mistake. And that's from Whitney Leggett at the Sun. So evidently there's some others that inadvertently got left out too.
And I also have a copy of all the emails sent between her and Ms. Nance. So it was all covered that way if anybody needs to see them. Okay. So,
Move to approve the minutes as amended.
motion by Mr. Peridot,
I'll second.
second by Mr. Tobey. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Student staff.
You got other minutes too?
Huh?
Did you all?
We approved all of them.
Oh, approved all of them. I got 3.
I think I might read that loud for Paul. Student, it's your turn.
Student staff. Oh, we haven't.
Okay.
Sorry. I put some recognitions that we'll be doing at some athletic events too, some athletic accomplishments in your update.
Okay. Public comments.
Mr. Cecil.
He's on the agenda. What Gordy is requesting.
Where's that?
Dressman,
Number 13.
thanks. 13. Mr. Cecil, is it okay if we just do your comments on item number 13 where it's already on the agenda?
Sure.
Or did you want to speak beforehand?
No.
Before we got to that? Okay, so that's fine? Okay. Okay. Item number 4. That would be, is that you and Miss Ellis?
Evening. So our current depository is going to end on June 30th. We signed one in 2017 with the option to extend for 3 years, a year at a time. So I just need a board decision on, are we going to extend another year or do you want to bid services? So currently, what we've been offered is we're with Traditional Bank and they have offered 25 basis points over Fed funds rate. Current Fed funds rate is 1.75. So we're getting 2% right now. Our minimum that they will give us, even if Fed funds drops below that, is 1%. So that is what we would continue on with if you renewed for another year. So this would be the second year of renewing that option, and then you would have one more year after that to decide as well. But I just need to know if you want to bid, because if it's bidding, that's kind of the season right now. Go ahead and do that to make sure we get in what we, get some quotes in before the end of the year to be able to do that seamless transition by July 1. So I just need direction from the board on that. Do you want to renew or bid?
We've had services now for 3 years.
Yes, so we signed a 2-year
And then we renewed it.
depository agreement with them, and then we had 3 1-year options. So we're in our 3rd year with them.
Mhm.
And then, so we have 2 more year options on our current before we would have to bid again. And then at that point, we would have to bid once we exhaust those 3-year one times.
You just bid with other local banks?
So basically, we just put out an RFP in the paper. I didn't provide a copy of what I apologize for that, I should have, of what we bid in the past, but we just put that out there and say that we're soliciting bids for banking services, and it's all lined out in the RFP, and then they submit sealed bids, and we open them all at once, and then they are presented, Mr. Christie and I review, and then we'll present those to you all for your decision on who you would want to have your banking services with. And so in 2017, when we did that, the only ones who even bid were Kentucky Bank and Traditional had the better rate offer. That's what that amounted
Nothing's
to.
changing. There's no proposed change to
No.
the existing contract.
So there's no proposed change to the existing? After 3 years, I'm more leaning to that we need to bid it. Just see if anyone steps up and wants the business.
And that's just, yeah.
I mean, that's just right after 3 years.
That's why we're here. What year are we in again on this?
This, currently,
First year of your
this is the
3-year,
first
okay.
year of the 3-year extension we're in right now. So in 2017, when we bid it, it was 2 years. And then we had the option to extend 1 year at a time for 3 years. So we're in our 1st year extension, so you have 2 more years. Next year would be the 2nd year, and then 21, 22 would be the 3rd year. But that's why we have to bring it back to you every year at this point and ask you, do you want to bid or extend?
And
To reach that mark.
And their proposal that we're living under, the fees and things like that, those all stay the same, like per check
Yes,
fees?
there are, no fees. They charge us for nothing. They pay for our check stock. We get reimbursed for that. The rate. Then, of course, we've invested the funds. They gave us that investment with the construction bond money, which we've hit that limit, so we're at 2% on that as well. We were at 2.5%, but that only lasted for a year, so we are past that mark at this point, and so we're at 2%. They're honoring the rest of our rate for our operating account on those bond dollars right now, so.
So Mr. Talby, were you thinking this is the 3rd year, or were you thinking after we finish this next 2 more years cycle is the 3rd year?
But before I answer that, I
Okay.
have another question. So if we do decide to bid it, does the language in the existing contract with the extension of the years, is that still in play? Or if we bid it, that goes away with,
We're in place until June 30th. If we
Okay.
bid it and we award it to someone else,
Or they rebid it.
or they
could
rebid it
with different
to,
terms.
Yeah.
I mean,
So
so
it's
right
all,
now,
it's all up for play if you put it
right
out
now,
to
we're
bid.
until June 30.
So what is your opinion on the fact of rebidding it and getting better rates?
So I have only in my tenure here bid once. And we switched, and because they had already been at Traditional Bank when I walked in the door. And then we bid the services after the 2-year bond at my tenure when I started. And the rate was, their first year when they bid with us, it was 10 basis points over. This year that we're in now, they bid 25 basis points over to keep us. So, I mean, it is an option that they might increase that again with another bid. I don't know that obviously till we submit it. I do know that in the situation, Kentucky Bank was 15 basis points under Fed fund rate, so that's why we went with traditionals, because they were over Fed fund rate 25. So it was just more return on our money. It was kind of cut and dry. It's really the rate that's, all the rest of the terms are the same. Everything, there's no fees that they charge us. They pay for our check stocks, our deposit slips. We don't have to pay, like, all that's written in the bid, that pretty much all that kind of stuff is free to us to be their customer. So it's really the rate is what the contingency of choosing which bank to go with. But I mean, at this point, we will have been with the same bank for 3 years.
Yeah.
So I understand your concept of wanting to bid again, to
And
see if we
that's-
could get better rates.
To answer your question, that's my take. We've been with the same bank for 3 years. A lot happens in 3 years. is it time to look at and see if there's a better option out there for us? So, I'm in favor of rebidding.
What happens in the case of, they say, well, we pretty much flattened them on the bids, and we're not going to up ours this time, we're going to go with 10 basis points instead.
And they very well could.
So we could lose.
I mean, so that's an option too, is that they could pull back and say, you know, we just can't afford to continue to pay you all 25 basis points over. That's a gamble.
Superintendent, any recommendation?
My recommendation would be leave the current contract in place. It's a gamble. They have the luxury of knowing that when it was bid 3 years ago, what the other bids were.
There was only 2 bids or
Yeah.
something?
And they know what the other one was, so they kind of know where the other one's coming from now.
One may go up and one may go down.
That's true.
We may not get
So,
back to the same point.
I'm just saying, play it safe, but
I don't know how money's running.
I don't know.
if people would try harder. I don't know. That's kind of out of my realm there, so whatever.
I understand what you're saying. Things change, but it could change. Rates could lower for us too.
Yeah,
It is
but we
my
wouldn't be under
understanding-
we wouldn't be under any obligation to, say we do put an RFP out, we wouldn't be under an obligation to award that contract.
No.
But then I don't know,
But
do they have to continue to honor the contract that we're in right now if we
Does
rebid
it
it?
kind of null and void
I
the,
think once you tell them you're gonna bid it,
You're
then
kinda
you're
null
kinda
and
saying,
voiding
we're
the
not
previous.
going with you, and then they can come back and say, that's great, we can't pay you 25. Today's deal of the day is kinda like, you know, the game show, what's behind door number 1, door number 2, and door number 3. They can say, traditional bank can say, we're just gonna pay 10% or 10 basis points.
I think you
above
kind of
the
take off
bid
the
rate.
table the extension when you decide to rebid. That's my opinion. And I will say, working with traditional bank and on the daily operations, I mean, they're a great bank to work with. When I call them, they answer the phone and get right back to me. They are on top of everything. I've never had to wait on anything from them. Not that any other bank wouldn't be that way. I'm just saying, customer service wise, I've been very pleased with working with them.
From my perspective, I think they brought us a good deal 2 or 3 years ago. And, you know, the money we've made on deposits has really been beneficial for the district. And from a practical standpoint, if nothing has changed out in the world of banking, which I don't think anything in terms of fees have changed, except they've gone up whenever they could get the opportunity. I think if it's a well-running machine, my perspective is to let it run another year, because it's a big hassle to change banks, and you know, you've got so much money flowing through different accounts to have it all move smoothly. Just from my perspective, I think there's a big benefit of that. But certainly respect your perspective also.
Yeah, it's a gamble. I just think that if there's a financial institution out there and we put a bid out that with the amount of money that goes through the district, there's someone that could possibly step up.
Anybody else? Anybody like to make a motion?
Move to approve as read.
Motion by Mr. Peardo.
Could I clarify, is your implication to extend our current relationship another year?
Yes.
Okay.
I just caught that this is for a 2-year period, but it should be 1 year. We can only, the way it's written is only 1. I'm sorry, I didn't catch that before. Oh, or bid for 2 years, I'm sorry. Let me read it in its entirety.
We are extending for 1 year.
Extending.
Yeah, we're extending for 1 year or bidding
We're
for
not
2
bidding, we're
years.
just going to approve it as at the end of 1 year. That's what my
Extend for
motion
1 year.
is.
Your motion for 1 year.
1 year.
And I'd like to second that motion to extend our relationship with the current bank for another year under the same terms.
Okay. Motion by Mr. Peardo, second by Mr. Heisel. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Nope, vote no.
Oh, sorry. Motion carries 4-1. Item number 5.
She's not here tonight, she's obligation to another board tonight.
Item number 5, consider approval of the 2020-2021 tentative SPDM allocations. Any discussion?
These are tentative, and these have not been presented to the schools.
They have not.
This is
We
just
haven't.
based on our current
Based on projections.
policy, allocations and everything. This is a preliminary that goes to the site-based councils, and then you'll meet with principals, they'll meet with site-based, and it'll all come back to us, correct?
Right, this is tentative that must be presented by March 1st, but then the final will come back at the April board meeting and presented to the.
We have meetings already scheduled with every principal.
It's good to see projected roads to be able to go back.
I know you're anxious to ask questions.
Well, since it's tentative, I think I'll just pass along some comments or some concerns that, well, I took it up to another decimal point to just confirm what the over minimum percentage was, and that takes it down just a little bit on some of them. So just some, high level observations that for Concrite and Justice, we're only picking up 8 and 9 people, but we're adding an entire teacher. And I'm still of the belief that our next fiscal year is going to be pretty tight. So I just want to observe that. And
We'll take another reading on enrollment as we get further down the road and may tighten that up, have to tighten that up.
gotcha. So I just wanted to pass along that concern. And if you look at how far we are over the minimums on Baker and Campbell, that stands out. And I think in the document, it states that the maximum class size for Campbell is 29, and I think it's actually 31. So if you use that in the next version, that makes that overage stand out even more. So that just observations from there, but I certainly concur with Mr. Peridot. It's great to see our district growing. And while other districts may not have that benefit, there's a lot of great things going on in our district, and hopefully it's bringing people to Clark County and on a measured basis.
So if I'm hearing you, in the final allocation, you're thinking that the junior high school should be changed to 31,
Yes.
not 29. So we're going to modify that allocation.
That we would have to do that.
Because that is a
There would be
modification to the board approved allocation.
But that 31 is the state cap size at 7 through 12. Even though in the past, all the past years here, we've used 29 at Campbell.
Well, I'm not sure that it would change any number. It just changes.
I know, but
It
it would
would.
be a
It would change the
modification,
number in
because
here.
this is pages,
I can find that on there.
pages 7, starting at 7 through 12 is the district allocation of what we have the allocation
district
set up
policy.
as. So if you want to change that, I just need direction that is you're wanting to modify the allocation to 29 to 31 instead of the current 29 that's listed. Regardless,
Actually,
the
on page
KRS
10,
is.
in your policy, it's page number 10 in the packet that you have. It says that teaching positions shall be allocated by dividing projected enrollment by 29 rounded to the nearest tenth. That's for junior high school and intermediate school. So it's in it would take a policy change. That's why we did it as 29.
And the reason it's a little bit lower is so they can offer more programs. Is that not correct? Kind of
Yeah.
helps out with
And they're-
being able, because you're getting junior high, you're taking, more classes, and whereas you're in elementary, you've got your pretty much a
All
single teacher.
required.
When you get into junior high, you branch out, where they've got woodworking, they've got, band, different things like that. I think having a lower number allows you to hire those teachers to get in those elective services. If I'm not mistaken, is that correct, Mr. Christie? Is that
Correct.
kind of the same way with the high school?
And that's the purpose for the the additional allocation of that level to 86 to 1, and you're going to ask about the high school. It was 62 to 1. But
We
the
won't get to that yet.
Okay.
I'm sure you'll hear all that from principals.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that'll come back in.
Yes, yes.
Those discussions.
I think actually, I was actually on page 3, not at the advanced, and that where it says the statutory maximum class size for grades 7 through 12. No,
That's-
I'm wrong. So that states the 31, and then on the,
But boards can,
You
they can.
must meet that.
You must meet that
number.
number. That's state statute, but boards can have a policy that increases that number.
so table C reflects our policy in terms of the
Yes.
divisor,
Not
not
the
the
20.
statute. That's
Not
what,
the statute.
that's what
Yes.
answers the difference between the two. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, now I'm good.
So if you want to change the allocation, we can, I just need to know.
Now, I think now that
You
we've
want to change
clarified
the
that reflects the policy and not the statute, because I was
Yes.
reading from the prior page and then flipped to that,
Gotcha.
and,
Yes.
And that's where the
tables
disconnect was.
reflect our currently adopt allocation,
okay. I think we're good
which
then.
is more generous than the state's.
Just for that
requirements.
one school. Okay,
We're pretty much on target for that.
okay, I'm good, thanks.
So on table B, the certified teacher allocation for 2019-2020 for GRC, does that include principals and counselors?
Yes. So in the past, this was a change that was requested and we talked about when we sat down at the budget level, and especially with all the legislation coming down the pike of saying you need more counselors and certain things, declaring exactly what the board is paying for and what positions we have. And GRC does currently have assistant principals and counselors that the board is picking up those extended days and index, but that's never truly been reflected in the allocation. And so that's what that change to the current is. So last year it was all teacher allocations with one principal and one media assistant. And this year we've pulled that over on table D. You will see that increase of assistants and guidance counselors that if you had looked at the previous allocation, those were not accounted for.
Okay.
So it's really kind of a wash on their allocation. You're taking 8 off the teacher and you're adding 8 on the administrative side. So the number of staff members is truly staying the same. It's just, it's being reflected more of how they're actually.
Of the teacher-student
Higher.
ratio, not administrator.
So that's why when you would look at page, what Mr. Christie referred to a minute ago, page 11, you'll see that used to say 62 additional staff, and now it says 105. And that's because we pulled those administrative positions off. If you put them back in the teacher allocation, it's still the 62. It's just more kind of in line with how most schools operate.
Any more discussion? Would someone like to make a motion?
Make a motion to approve item 5 as written.
Motion by Mr. Talby,
I'll second.
second by Ms. Richardson. All those in favor say aye. Motion carries 5-0. Item number 6, Mr. Christie, Mr. Holland.
Mr. Holland met with, he's got the calendars, he's met with the committee. They've got, I think, 2 options, very similar.
Yeah, the calendar committee, the calendar committee got together. Ms. Richardson was a representative for the board. We met and created 2 calendar options that you have presented before you. As you take a look at those, the biggest difference that was selected by the calendar committee was the change on spring break dates. That was what the committee wanted to present to you all for consideration. Once again, this is, you do not have to take either of these recommendations. It's at your power to do whatever you want to in terms of that. As a reminder, this is, we tell the committee, this is our job, is to come up with 2 options, present it to the board, and how it's chosen to go is how it's chosen to go. But these were the 2 that the committee wanted to present to you.
Mr. Holland, you said the biggest difference is the 1-week difference in spring break. Is there any other difference?
No, that is the only difference.
Maybe I missed something.
I did too.
I was worried.
And it's, if you'll take a look, one of the things we wanted to do is also present the days, much similar to what we did this year, to have the days mirroring that for semester breaks. That's a big thing for high school, is to have that even break when we get to the winter break, and then come back and be able to move into semester 2. So that's what both calendars do that as well.
Been put out to the schools at all, or just through the committee?
This is the schools, the representatives went back to the schools, sought input, brought input back to the committees that was discussed by the committees. These were then devised, and now these are the two options
No favoritism on one nor the other?
Not that weird. Ms. Richardson, did you hear anything different?
No,
That's not.
no.
We had, when people had ideas, but basically, the overwhelming thing that came back to us, and this was almost to a person, was, we love the calendar this year. Please, if you would, please adopt one that's very similar to that. That was overwhelming feedback from the schools themselves.
Any idea what surrounding districts, what week they're taking off for spring break?
No,
Might be a-
Fayette County, I believe, is going to do the last week in March. I believe that is option 1.
Right. Last 3 days, right there, a couple days in April.
We have most of our surrounding counties too, unless they changed it this year. Their previous pattern has been to do sort of what we do and do that February, March kind of adoption time frame too. So
But if you can be like the other counties around, we can kind of get on the same time schedule. I think it helps them when people are traveling, they have friends other places. And, if there is any kind of majority out there, I don't know.
Spring break.
I don't, but I want to say it's usually the middle of March, I believe, but that's off the top of my head. Eastern.
We have so many that dual credit classes now.
Normally UK is right there in the middle
Yeah.
of March. I think Easter's about the same.
We're not going to be able to back.
I mean, I have no preference on any of these. I don't know if we want to, just teachers decide that, or whether you want to just throw one out there, or.
And this is, and by law, just as a reminder, that this is just reading one, and it can't be adopted until at least 2 readings for it. So
Can you come back maybe with, ask every principal to come back and report what option there is? Just kind of, we can kind of go on from there.
give some
So
feedback.
you all are favorable with either one of these based
I don't
on
see, I mean,
teacher
I can't.
preference?
It's either the first week of April
Yeah,
And I don't know
or
the reasoning
divided.
why somebody wants that last week of March or the first week, I don't know what
Yeah,
that reasoning was. but
It wasn't, there wasn't a big scientific.
No.
They just want to have 2 options.
Yes.
That's basically
This
this
week or that week is fine.
All right. I would just suggest that we, let those building principals go back and ask or report back to you and say, this is the one we like. And
Yeah, I'd bring that data back to you.
bring that back to us and we can do it in a
Right.
second. I mean, I don't know.
In the October, did you all, that is the only thing I heard this year was about court day, that we did not give them, usually our fall break went at court day. Usually ran with court day.
I believe, if I'm not mistaken, didn't we align with Court Day?
I
Yes,
thought we
We
did.
did discuss it.
It is this time, yes.
It is this time?
It's
Okay.
the third Monday, and that's one of the days
Okay.
for fall break.
And we also
That's
took
fine.
into consideration, there is for homecoming for GRC as well, and kept it away from that.
Right.
That was a discussion, because if it's off, that's difficult for them to be able to celebrate something while we're off. So we kept that in consideration as well.
Yeah, it's with,
So the
Court
Friday
day.
lines up
Mhm.
for court day.
Yeah, both
This
options.
year, it was,
Both options.
that was the biggest complaint I heard.
Yeah.
In court day.
So the game plan is reach out to administration and
Teachers.
principals.
We'll reach out to
Principals.
administrators, let them vote on the 2 options in the building, and bring that information back to you, what the majority of the teachers chose.
I would be curious to see what the other school districts surrounding, if they picked a date yet too, if we can correlate.
By that time, I can bring you in, or get it to you ahead of time and just say, hey, this is what Madison, Montgomery, and these folks have adopted for their spring break, I can do that as well.
Happy next board meeting, Fred.
I'm sorry.
Next board meeting, because a lot of my letters depend on the first day of student attendance.
Yes, so that would be the next board meetings, that would be that Monday, because that's when they can't adopt the calendar beforehand anyway, so
Can this count as first reading?
Yeah, this is
And then-
first reading.
Okay, and so then you'll come back and we can approve it next time, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Does that give us we have the option of either one or two at the next reading? We don't have the option of unknown number 3.
You still do, the way that.
And that would still count as
Yes,
a
correct.
first reading of something we haven't read?
It's be a second
It'd
reading.
be, it's the second reading.
You get a
I
first,
think technically we can change the calendar anytime we want to. I really believe, I mean.
At any
but
meeting,
you have to do
at any
this at
meeting.
any meeting, we can change the calendar.
Okay.
Their big thing was making sure that it appeared on two, it doesn't even have to be successive.
Two agendas.
It's just 2 agendas, and that it was discussed, and it wasn't just something that was willy-nilly, it was actually thought put into it.
Just to give the public 2 chances to
Correct.
have their input on it.
Right.
No action needs to be taken then, right?
correct.
All right, so item number 7.
Do we need to move to approve that
No.
first reading?
It's just a first reading.
We don't need to.
It just needs to be noted in the minutes that a first,
Nothing
that
just
a,
happened.
that a notice that a first reading was taken.
Item number 7, Paul Christie, Don Gonzalez.
Change order, or it's an add to the existing contract between Geotechnology and Board. This is for the geotech, for the changing from the natural fields to the turf fields. This is with the company that already had the bid on when it was bid out on the project.
Questions, discussion?
From my perspective, this seems like a pretty high number. I wish we'd known about it when the board was considering the artificial turf option. We could have looked at the whole thing in totality. And I'm not sure if it's apples and apples, but I pulled out Geotech's bid back in October of 17. They've got a fee schedule, and on there, the synthetic turf testing is a lump sum of $5,500. And the artificial turf surface is probably much larger than what we're talking about, but I don't think it's 4 or 5 times larger if I'm interpreting their unit billing correctly, so.
Of course, their oversight is more than just the actual turf samples. It's the entire drainage, piping, everything. It's the entire drainage system.
Well, weren't they giving oversight of that?
Yeah, but
before we switched to
it's a
dirt?
totally different drainage system for turf compared to natural turf. It would be totally different. Now,
Do we,
Mr. Codell might can speak to the difference, the extrapolation from the football field price to the baseball, softball field price. I can't answer that piece.
back in October, there were 4 different other firms that were considered. Is the window we had not allow us to get quotes from the 4 other people involved in this, or do we have to move forward with this one company?
Well, for the actual synthetic turf testing portion of it, the price per test has actually gone down. For the football field, we did 21 tests, and it was about 261 on average per test. For baseball and softball, we do have a much larger area, a little more than twice as many square feet. And it's, so we're doing 56 tests, and at 14,200, that comes out to $253 per test. So it's actually, what, $8 per test less.
Just doing more tests.
For the synthetic turf portion. Now, that's just for the synthetic turf portion of it, which is what that $5,500 was. The drainage inspection and all that was carried under, for the football field, was carried under the SPIN, Special Inspections Contract, which is separate from the synthetic turf testing. So the difference between that 14.2 and the 28.
26,046.
Yeah.
26.
Is for the testing of the drainage stone, the piping, the trenching, and the things that had to be added under the turf for the drainage system. She didn't have to have all that. We didn't have all that drainage system in there.
So why would not, when I look at just this one item, if you add the drainage part, from your all's perspective, even though maybe it should have been nice, would have been nice to know about it 2 or 3 months ago, you think this $26,000 price is a fair price?
Yes.
And you think we don't need to try to muddy the waters? There's a lot of mud on that field.
They were
By
the
bidding it out.
low, they were the low bid to geotechnology the first time. Geotechnology evidently solicited all 4 of them the first time. And when I did exactly what you're doing, and I checked the price per test, which is the easiest way to compare the turf to the turf, and it actually came in less per test, I was more than comfortable with it. I don't think another firm would come in cheaper or cheap enough to warrant having 2 different firms out here.
Okay, thanks.
Yes. Now, would anybody like to make a motion?
I actually didn't see the change order in our packet. Just lists, kind of just lists the email. Doesn't, usually we get the financials, change order.
It's not a change order, it's an ad.
This is a service they're providing. It's not on the contractors, so you're not seeing the actual AIA document like you're going to see usually from the contractors there. So it's a different scenario. So they've got a straight contract.
Okay.
You wouldn't see the AIA fact documentation like you would with a contract.
It's a professional service contract versus a general contract.
Gotcha.
And I guess that means there's no inflators on it either. No extra 4% or for you guys.
For us,
Yeah.
Make a motion to approve item 7 as written.
Motion by Mr. Talby. Second by Mr. Peridot. Huh? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Item number 8.
You're going to explain it so we can understand it, right?
I want to do my best.
Oh, great.
Yeah. I brought a few copies. I think I'll have it up here, but I don't want you to have to. There's a couple copies there. The first page is the written easement language, or first couple pages. The second, well, let me make sure I know what it is for too. The second one's the easement exhibit that would accompany the easement. The third shows roughly where the existing pipe is, and the fourth is an overlay over a Google Earth image so you can see what it looks like next to the actual school. So, generally what we're asking for is an easement to connect the existing main that runs around, it looks like it passes around the Schroed Elementary School to the southwest. It ends just beyond the pavement to the southwest of the school. We'd be connecting there and traveling in a southwest direction until we get to the right-of-way of Frontier Way. That's what the easement would cover. It'd be 20 feet wide, and it'd be centered on, well, the pipe will be centered in the easement. It's going to be a 4-inch plastic pipe that we'll be connecting, and we went out there and looked at it just a little while ago. It would be an open cut, so just a simple trench, put the pipe in, connect it down to Frontier Way, and it's this is Bobby Dawes. He's our construction leader, and I think he would agree it's a pretty straightforward.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
It's all in the grass. Everything's in the grass. I looked at it and thought about maybe boring it, but it would be more intrusive to bore. We'd have to set the machine up, and we'd have to use the bit mat and all that stuff, and then we'd have to string the pipe. We're talking about 200 feet. This is something that we was hoping to get started on as soon as we can get the easement. And we can work around the school, hoping to try to get away from the school. Now, the whole project's about 4,000 feet. So once we get across the road to the Ball Home subdivision, we should be able to monitor and stay out of the school's way. But we can make sure to try to work around the school all we can. Just like I said, it's just 200 foot of open ditch, and we'll have to make one more across the street.
It's not an area of the school that we currently use for kids, or there's not a lot going on in this area, so it's not gonna be something that they're out there working even during a school day, other than maybe a backhoe distraction up at the very top there could be the only thing that.
That's where the buses are.
You may notice.
No, that's already existing.
Yeah.
They only start at, when you look at the picture of Strode, if you see the little angled piece, looks like it starts at the corner of the building, right where it angles and goes down, that's where they're talking about. The other is all already existing,
Show us where.
right there. From there down is what they're working on.
They start here and go right there.
So you're just talking about that
Yeah.
piece?
All the others exist.
Oh, this is all.
And the reason that we're trying to get, the easement looks so large compared to the actual project is, we don't have an easement to cover that line because it's just been serving the school property. It's okay that way, but we prefer to have, we prefer to have an easement and an exhibit that can be referenced in the county records, just keeps the waters a little clearer, so.
But make sure I understand what you're telling us. This red is existing.
It's in the ground.
You're just asking for this,
That's correct.
this part right here.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Are you gonna change the pressure? And I know it's unusual for me, so no pressure change at all?
It'll be the way I understand it, it's all going to say exactly what it is.
What's it running at right now?
Pressure now. I'm not
It's a
really
medium
sure.
pressure, which is how many pounds per
It's,
square inch?
our medium pressure goes from 10 to 60 PSI.
But you've got a 4-inch line in all the red right now, and you're just extending the same pressure, same 4-inch line, another, whatever it might be.
200 feet. Well, actually, we're serving the whole across the street, is to get to across the street to Ball Homes.
Well, I'm just concerned about our part.
200 feet.
So, same 4-inch line right now, you're just extending the same size line, this additional distance. It's not like we're bringing any additional, you're not proposing to just be crazy, putting a 10-inch line in there right now. We already have a 4-inch line.
That's right.
Okay.
It's just going to be a squeeze and go, what we call it, just a simple tie-in and take off. And we also, if there's something the school's doing, we can work Saturdays. We can do whatever that it takes to convene, just make sure we don't
We can work through that.
Is there any guarantee that they won't create, I've dealt with a lot of pipelines that have ended up, you start with a 10 PSI or 30 or 40 PSI and it ends up being 100 or 150 and then you have an explosion, or will you ever change the size of that 4-inch line just because if everybody in Ball Homes wants gas, you're going to have to increase the size of that line to...
Not with the polyurethane that we got, we can only go 260, that's it. And if they go any higher than that, you'd have to go to high density black plastic that goes to 99 PSI, and that's very rare that we do that, especially here locally. And I just don't.
But there's nothing that prohibits you from, now that you have, if you got this easement, there would be nothing that would prohibit you from going in there and changing it from a 4-inch line to your black plastic poly.
Well, if it goes to high pressure, then by our standards, we'd have to increase the easement to 50 feet in width. So we'd have to get a new easement and come back before you do the stance again, so.
Yeah, we couldn't make any changes without going through proper channels.
So again, just clear, you have an existing easement.
We have an existing line.
No.
That supports,
This
the
line-
red lines just supports the school right now.
Okay, so you that's why you don't need an easement on our property, and now you will need an easement because you're servicing another batch of customers.
Right.
Okay. You didn't have to ask us permission to run gas to ourselves previously.
Right.
Okay.
So how many customers do you plan on serving with that easement?
Then I have no idea.
I'm not sure either. That Ball Homes development to the south of the elementary school, I'm not sure how many homes are there.
700-acre piece of property.
It's big, yeah.
So I guess my question, I hate to be kind of, I'm looking out for the district here, by providing you the easement, what's in it for the school district?
What is in it for? That's a great question.
You want me to help you with the answer?
I would love to, yeah.
I've been dreaming to have more expanded housing in this town since I've been on the board and worked behind the scenes with a lot of people, so it would mean more houses being built. And hopefully more students in those houses.
That's a good answer. Because I'm all about expansion as well. But, so the development, there's not a development over there right now, I guess, right?
There are homes there, but they're going
homes,
to be
but-
building more, yeah.
Okay, so this will help build more homes in that area?
Have you been in back there behind there?
No, not recently, so that's the reason I'm asking.
Yeah, there's street in, there's
Because
lots
I
of hookups.
think, you know, it's up to.
Probably 20
I think it's up to the
homes right
board
now.
here to do what we can to help expand and help promote our community. So I see this as doing that, so.
I agree.
We own property, right?
Yes, we do.
Just west of this.
Right
Are
on
you
the
aware
other-
that we have a large parcel just west of
12 acres,
Road?
12 acres
Expansion?
behind Stroud.
Yeah.
On the other side of the
Dovetail
street
into
from
that.
this up where these houses are, where these homes are being built.
But perhaps your point is, we get those additional benefits of potentially more students, but should we expect something just for the right, for them to compensate us going through the property in addition to that?
You know, if it's to, that was kind of what I was leaning to, but if we're helping the community to expand, I guess my only concern is what Mr. Thomas brought up, is we provide you the easement, and then for some reason you have to go in there without notifying the school and do something to that easement and mess up school days or something of that nature. I don't know what kind of, you know, what you all could tell us today that would help assure us that you'll work with the school district, even though that easement be on our property, be on the school property.
There wouldn't be no meters, first off. The only meter is at the very end of the line that's existing now that serves the elementary school. And there's like a 20-foot stub running past that tap, and that's what we're hooking to. There'll be absolutely nothing on there but a straight piece of pipe. The polyethylene pipe lasts hundreds of years unless somebody gets into it or something, but I don't see, looking over there, there's hardly anything going on unless you all eventually one day wanted to do construction or something, and that's something that we'll be working through and doing relocations and whatever.
How deep is the line?
We gotta have minimum 36-inch clearance on top of the pipe, 4 inch.
I didn't realize the line was already there, and you're only going 200 feet. I thought it was actually doing the whole red section, so it's,
That's the easement
That's
area, but
easement.
that's not the
Right.
additional pipe area.
yep.
Right.
Mr. Christie, do you have an opinion on this, sir?
I would support this extension. I don't think we'll have a problem. I think we can work with these guys to, during school time or whatever we need to do to make sure that it's done at a time that's not disruptive to the school. Mike can use a little help when you're in there. We have some real good drainage in that area right there that we want to maintain that good drainage on there.
Yeah, we noticed the head wall that
Yeah.
came out with
Okay.
about a 8 to 10 inch pipe coming down. We saw that, so
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be a nice fix.
Yeah.
Mr. Thomas, have you had a chance to read the proposed right-of-way language?
It's pretty standard. That was the reason that I'd asked whether or not they would be changing it, because it does give them the ability to run whatever substance that they want through there. It says for any substance that they want to run through there. That's why I asked if they would go back and change it, because if they run a different substance, they might have to change. You know, if they went to a transmission line from a distribution line, then they got to change type of pipe and the depth of the pipe. You got to go from 36 to 48. And so, yeah, I read through it all.
20 to 50, and we go to 50 inch right away, and we'll be back here. Probably with bated breath.
So you read through it and you're happy with it?
Yeah.
When do you want to start it?
Well, this is the first, we're sort of waiting for this. Now, this goes, they'll go ahead and submit it, and then they'll release it, and they'll put it in the schedule to get the proper contractor to take care of it. And hopefully, we can get the majority of it this summer, and when school's out. That's what I'm hoping for. And if we start before then, we have options of going to a different street on the fourth, like I said, it's serving 4,000 foot of gas line across the street. So we have the option of working around the school, and because it won't take long to run the 200 feet and get the bore under the road and to get over to the subdivision. So we can sort of pick and choose when we do that, what makes it feasible for the school system.
Just out of curiosity for the rest of the project, it looks like there's access from Frontier Way from the south. The parents come that way to pick up kids or anything?
On down Frontier, not in the area where you are, but there is an access, there's a curb break there.
Is it this here, is that what you're talking about? or-
No, that's on down Frontier, yes, parents do use
They
that.
come in from that
They come
direction?
in from there, there is no traffic flow back
Right.
here from the
So I
school.
was
But
thinking-
there is a access curb cut back there, I think.
Okay, so there's, for the project in general, we'd want to, be mindful of that. It's something we'll-
Absolutely.
Any more questions from anybody?
So just to clarify this last discussion you had, is there,
He was asking where the parents come in.
well, I was thinking of the future, is there anything you want them to specifically reserve?
Well,
They've
that's why,
got
that's
it
what
going
the
in
depth
line
of it
with-
was, and about the drainage, the current drainage system is there, and it's,
But you can, if you get it 36 inches deep, you can run a road over it,
Yes.
right? Because we got roads, okay, well, that's.
Just no
probably-
closed
that's what I'm
structures is the only real prohibition in the easement languages, because that creates the
I can't ever imagine anything other than possibly an emergency secondary exit out of there. It's not going to be, it's not suitable for structures there where that is.
Anybody like to make a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Mr. Heisler,
I'll second it.
second by Mr. Tobey. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you all. I'll be in touch.
Item number 9. Mr.
Thank you all.
Christie. Mr. Stewart.
Good answer.
First one, they consider change order number 2.5, in the amount of $1,293. These are fire-rated access panels. They were required by the fire inspection, so it's a required 2 of the rooms.
I'm saying your recommendation. to
Yes,
do
my
it.
recommendation is to do that, yes. It's a
Have-to situation. Any more discussion? Anybody want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion if there's no discussion. I'll make a motion to approve item 9 as written.
Motion by Mr. Tolby,
I'll second.
second by Ms. Richards. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Item number 10, Mr. Christie.
recommendation to approve change order number 4-9 to Structural Steel Services in the amount of $1,743. This is, if you look at on the mezzanine level, the steps that go up into the upper arena, there's a gap between the step rail and the bleachers, and this is them covering. They come back and cover that so no trash and keys, cell phones, whatever, can go down in behind there.
Could have been a moneymaker for us. They go down, retrieve them.
Couch cushions. Any discussion? No, would anybody like to make a motion?
Move to approve item 10.
Motion by Mr. Peridot,
I'll second.
second by Ms. Richardson. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Item number 11, Mr. Christie.
Item number 11 is change order to the GRC athletic field. It's over at the stadium. It's on the backside where it says Cardinal Stadium. If you've noticed, it's kind of dark on that backside. There's no lighting other than the street lighting that goes in. This proposal is for lighting fixtures to be attached to that stadium to highlight the Cardinal Stadium logos on the side of on the back side of the building, on the driveway side of the building.
The field house side.
The field house side. This is a price that's come to under the current contractors. We'd be looking at similar costs if we tried to do this ourselves. You know, in my opinion, this is one I would recommend if we're going to do lighting. My recommendation is to allow the change order to go through and let the appropriate construction folks already on site do the work.
Just to light the word
That
Cardinal Stadium?
No, it's beyond, I think it's that whole backside there, and it's
It's like there's 5 lights, 6 feet long each. So just the material costs $8,200. It's not a serious LED light.
yeah.
It'll really brighten it up. It'll make it pop.
It needs it.
This was something that it wasn't backed out of the job, but it was discussed previously, but just because of budget costs, we mixed it with the project originally.
The original bid. The bulk of the street lighting down there is kind of down lighting, so it doesn't give much light to the,
And this is not frivolous.
Safety.
Safety.
well, it depends on how dark you,
You think it's going to bring illumination
I think,
to where
yes,
people
I
are
think it'll
walking?
bring some illumination to that area outside that stadium area.
Where
which is bright.
Where people are, you think it'll illuminate where people are walking, not 40 feet up in the air?
I think
Well,
it will
it'll
brighten,
do
it will
that.
lighten that up some, yes. I'm not saying that it'll be like the street lights on the ground, but it will lighten that area up. When you're talking this amount of light, it's gonna lighten that backside of that stadium.
Who is the additional
Yeah.
lighting at the ground, but it is.
It is up at the top, aimed at the side of the building.
Signage.
It'll provide additional lighting too, wouldn't it, if, when baseball and softball's going on, to
On that-
just kind
on that
of,
street.
because there's gonna be parking down there across from that.
Yes.
Yeah, so.
But there'll be downlighting street lights in the
but
parking lot.
it
too.
just kind of helps brighten that whole area up, wouldn't it?
I think it would. I mean, you're talking the size of lights and LED, and it is aimed at the back of the building, but it's aimed at a down. I think it's gonna provide some light, but again, we had 4 or 5 football games out there without this light, and that was a #1 concern that I heard from the backside, is it is pretty dark back there after the games, it's dark.
It's dark.
I'm slow sometimes.
This
so-
is not
I
lighting
thought you were agreeing
aimed
with
down
that.
on the ground, but I think it will lighten that back area some.
It gets really dark when you turn the lights off and there's
Well,
still
I'm
people
saying-
trying to get.
I'm
people
just
still
wondering
trying
whether we
get-
ought to
get the
focus
dust
in on
area.
lighting the ground where the people are instead of where the birds are.
You said it's going.
But it's not. I don't think it's really, it's gonna light the ground much. I think it's frivolous. I'd rather put colored lighting on the side of the big building so we can light that up for different colors for different holidays and stuff. Or maybe we do that
We
too.
can do that. We can put spotlights
Any more discussion? Would anybody like to make a motion?
Move to approve item 11 as written.
Motion by Mr. Peardo,
I'll second it.
second by Mr. Talby. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Okay. Item number 12, Mr. Christie.
I said that was one of the top complaints that we had. This was the #1 complaint that I heard from the football stadium. The signage on the inside with directions to the visitor side, with directions to the concession stands, with directions and marking of the men's and women's restrooms. They're kind of back in an alcove. This is signage that will be out and placed at various strategic locations, giving direction to all those things. We need this. We need this. I think the $12,600 is a lot to pay for signs, but I think it's probably
There's a lot of.
it's probably a fair price, but it just seems like a lot.
There's quite a bit of signage. This is not only the directional signage that you're talking about, this is some signage goes out on the fence.
Yes, that's what-
Track,
yeah.
some columns out front, but it's, and then there's some.
On the side of the building.
Some dimensional letters on the ticket window and concession areas. So, there's some.
Oh, there's actually some drawings.
In the $12,000 price, there's $430 in sales tax. We have the opportunity to buy this directly and avoid that.
KDE makes, when you do a change order, then they want the contractor to purchase material and portion to pay the sales tax. Which doesn't make a lot of sense if that's the case. They don't want to offer a purchase order after the fact, so.
So, Mr. Christie, I agree with you that I heard a lot of complaints about this as well. The $12,000 for signage to figure out where to go to the restroom. It's, you know, I know we had, you know, it was a new stadium, and as far as their home parents and home fans go, we've been through it already. So, you know, I think as we grow, this is really just addressing our visitors. Okay? That's my opinion. I think if you have to go to the restroom, you're going to find where the restroom is. $12,000 worth of signage seems exorbitant. I mean, it seems high. I agree we need it, but
I don't believe you can have too much signage, I'm just telling you, that's from my opinion. I mean, going to a lot of different facilities, and, you know, when we talk about having visitors in, we're hoping in our facilities that we're having visitors in there all the time. And, you know, it's something that we want to open up a great deal. And I know when I go to other places, and I've talked about our signage from the road all the way out, it's not really good right now. People can drive right past our high school right now if you don't know where it's at without realizing it. And I just think anytime that you've got signs, it's just that much more friendly. It opens it up when you got outside people like KHS the other way wanting to come in and rent your facilities out for dance competitions, for cheerleading competitions. All those things are already there. Band having competition, opening it up statewide. Yeah, I just think all those things really add to the friendliness of the stadium. I'm not going to argue with $12,000. I have no idea about what signage is, but we're looking at what, 60 signs or something like that in here. Just briefly looking at them. And they're nice too. And I mean, it's not something that doesn't look good as well. They look like they'll be there. If they're well placed, I'd certainly be in favor of them myself.
Yeah, I think the bulk of the money is coming from the aluminum signs. The letters, we have the high-class letters that say
The tickets and concessions.
tickets, concessions, stuff like that.
Any more discussion? No, would somebody like to make a motion?
I move to approve item number 12 is ready.
Motion by Mr. Peardo,
I'll second.
second by Ms. Richardson. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Item number 13, Mr. Peardo.
Well, this is really Mr. Cecil right here, but I think we wanted to just kind of talk about it as the board. Mr. Christie can jump in here too. I was at the fiscal court meeting the other day, and Mr. Cecil presented this idea of identifying all of the past schools that we've had in Clark County. I think this has been a 7 or 8 year project for Mr. Cecil. In doing it, he's done a great job. I know he's came out, got some information from Mr. Christie and been everywhere. And as I was sitting in that meeting, I thought, well, you know, this sounds like something we as a school board might want to get involved in as well. And called Mr. Christie and asked him if he would consider thinking about this and maybe putting it on there and just talking. Right now, I don't think we're really talking about a money thing, even though I think Mr. Cecil has identified it to be around approximately $5,000 or less. And we would be a joint venture with both the county government and the city government, because they're looking there, and I think we're looking at those people to install and those type of things. But he's got some pictures over here. He's got kind of, you guys, I don't know if you guys got to see a little bit what it would look like, just would identify the school, where the school was at. Just seemed like a really good project for us to be involved with the county and the city as well. And he did a much better job presenting than I would ever do, and I'm sure we'll have him come back if we want to do that. And, don't know how many of you all know Mr. Cecil or whatever, but he's always around. He's a great community leader, and I'm actually a big fan of his, so that's,
And you,
He does a
if
great
you
job.
want, anything you want to
anything you
add?
want to add, Mr.
Well, anybody in here go to a 1 and 2 room school? That's what I thought. When your grandparents are gone, that's it. Nobody in the county knows where they are. Does anybody have any idea how many schools we've located since 1793? You do. 92. By deed, by actual sightings, and by interviews, all this kind of thing. And among those are about 20 African-American schools too, which I've been working with Joyce Morton and the African-American Commission to identify and create a lot of their history for them. But this will be the only county, if we do this as a county, we'll be the only county surrounding Fayette that is cataloged and indexed and recorded for the future, the legacy of history, the legacy of education history in this county. As a matter of fact, the first school in Clark County was right across in front of you, where the Bojangles is. It was a Strode Station and a log cabin in 1793. Okay, so in my opinion, there's a very real need. And of course, the brown is for the tourism aspect, and you're limited on that. The county and city have agreed to install the signs, because that's technical. You know, call before you dig, right-of-ways, all that business. So anyway, I think it's a project, and down the road, I've got a couple little computer kids I'm gonna get, and they're gonna put all this so you touch on the screen and you find the school and how to get there. And GIS is already, we've GPSed all these in, by the way. So you can jump in your car and find them. That's all I have. Thanks.
So I think it's a really great idea, and I'm just telling Mr. Ice before the meeting, I think when you get older, you start thinking about some of these things. I know 3 out of 4 schools that I attended here in Clark County are no longer in existence, or they've been torn down. So, I mean, and you guys can probably think back to some as well. And so it just kind of helps us to be a part of it, and being a part with the city and the county as well.
I think when you start to see 92 signs of historic school sites, that starts to show you the importance of the educational system in this county.
Anybody know where the VFW line or VFW post is now? That was North Park School, and it was in the county because the railroad was the city limit. Okay, on Victory Avenue, that school building is still standing, not Victory Heights. Victory Avenue, the school building is still standing as a residence. We have over 20 of them, I think about 28, but I always say over 20. And most of them are on there. Okay. Thank you very much.
So have you all already contacted the landowners to place these signs?
You do it on a right of way, so
On a
well, to answer your
right-of-way.
first question, yes, and sometimes they don't even know they're living on the school site, and they're happy to do it. And I've also talked to DAR, retired teachers, the civic clubs around town, and so it's not a big money project, but it's something that'll put the history of education in Clark County on the map as far as future generations. Think of all the school kids that drive by every day, every road. If you go from here to exit 101, there are 6 high schools on that road, on Mount Sterling Road. Or 6 schools, excuse me. Okay. Any other questions?
I think it's a great idea. I love it. It's just, a specific question I have is, what can we do? I mean, what's the specific ask for the school board?
The way I understood
How can we assist?
to Mr. Christie is that we would wait and see what the city and county, what their committee.
What they're going to pick up and do, and we'll see what we can, it'd like to be a joint venture with all 3 of us
Mr.
coming
Christie
together.
with meeting with those people and coming back and presenting to us
Okay,
a dollar
exactly what it
figure
would be.
or anything like that.
Scott, you 6 have already, since they're living in a historic school site, they've already asked to be exempt from school taxes. I'm just kidding, I'm just
You know,
kidding.
you can ask, I found out you can ask for a lot of stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah. But you can ask the city and county to tally up all the money we paid them fees for these buildings we built, and they'll just want to pay for the whole thing.
But to answer your question, the city and county have agreed to do the heavy lifting, which is installing it.
That's great.
So they've got all the technical and the know-how to do that, and we're not out there pounding on some utility line.
Looking at the price of the signs they're getting, we need to talk to their signage people about the gym. Yeah, stay out there.
The other signs.
That one already passed a week ago.
And it's a local sign person that gave us the best bids.
All I would ask for here would just be permission to continue to work with Mr. Cecil and come back to you as it develops and tell you what the need or whatever part of it could be, what we think we could do or what he thinks we need to do to help.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Item 13A, work session date. That's right.
I have just a technical question, I guess probably for Mr. Thomas. When we set these work sessions, should we identify an agenda? I mean, when we post that, you have to give the agenda when you post it. And I was under the impression that the agenda is supposed to be posted with the work session.
That's correct. And the last time was kind of it's kind of a work in progress, but I think that it was my understanding that the discussion was we're going to have a work session to discuss the items and we're going to address at the following meeting.
That's
So-
what I was thinking, and then it didn't pan
didn't-
out, so
it
I
did
just
not
wanted to
materialize.
try to make sure.
Because
for-
We were kind of behind the eight ball on it, but this
Right.
one, we're looking at trying to have a working agenda that would be.
I just think for the
working
public, when we put that out there, they need to know what's on the agenda.
It
so-
should be the thing that's going to follow up 2 weeks later.
Right.
or-
I mean, even
That was
even
our
if it
one.
just says, discuss items for the such and such meeting, right? If that's all it says, I think that's fine. And I think everybody knows that that's what it's going to be. Right.
That was kind of where we were, whatever's gonna be on the agenda is what will be on the work session.
Some of that will be difficult because of change orders and things like that, so, I mean.
But I mean, we can't add anything. Once we set the agenda, if we say it's on the agenda, you have to bring whatever is on that agenda at that time. So, I mean, whatever's posted, that's what we have to talk about. The way I understand it.
But I would see this,
Special meeting.
if you were looking at, if this were the agenda for next month, I would think that in a working session, we could have a discussion on the depository, the banking bid, we could discuss that. We could discuss SBM allocations, maybe the calendar, that's something that certainly could be discussed. If you were looking at this agenda, that we want to have a work session, there are several things in here that we could have talked about. And that's our idea, is to hope to get ahead of the game where we're giving you this agenda at a work session. So you're seeing pretty much the agenda that you're going to see at your next regular meeting.
So we want to set a date, we're looking at a date.
Yeah.
But the week before is the girls' state tournament, and well, of course, we're not in there now, I'm not trying to jinx us, but, and if our girls did go and play, they would play on Thursday night, because that's already been set, the bracket's already been set. So we know that Thursday is probably not the best choice right now. I mean, we don't know what's gonna happen, but we want our girls to be there.
Were we thinking a Monday?
I thought we was
So
trying to keep,
correspond with-
yeah, I thought we was trying to keep it on Mondays.
I mean, I
Just
don't,
to-
whatever, I didn't know, I mean, I'm just trying to throw some dates out there, but Mondays are fine, but I'm just trying to think, the further you go in the week, probably the more developed the budget, the agenda becomes.
So working backwards, I guess the 16th is our next scheduled meeting. So y'all thinking the 9th or the 2nd? Not, the 2nd's pretty far back.
Second. Too far
Yeah, the
back.
second.
And that's regional tournament, too.
What's the 9th look like for you?
Oh, it's fine, the night's open.
Now, that's regional tournament too, boys regional finishes on that Monday, Tuesday.
Does it?
They play Wednesday, Thursday, right, and then they come back, play Monday, Tuesday. So that's your regional semis and finals right there.
That's here.
Yeah.
So that leaves Wednesday the 11th or Friday the 13th, and I'm not a real fan of Friday the 13th.
Well, Wednesday then
No,
gets
it's
us
fine.
into.
It's fine.
You're
It's
good,
fine.
Oakley?
Yeah. Yeah, right now. But just a question on the work session. So we're going to have a work session that we can't add anything to, that we're going to discuss items that we're going to discuss again at the board meeting.
The whole point is to get the discussion
So I consider a work session is when we come in, to me, a work session is when we come in with new ideas and things and want to address things but if we have to have it on the agenda, and publish it, and that's the only things we can talk about, it's on there, then we just have to coordinate, I guess, what we want to talk about to put it on the agenda.
When you have to, unfortunately, you can't come in with just a new idea like that. The public has to know what's going to be on there, unless you put something on your regular agenda and say new business.
That's right.
And we can put a new business on a regular agenda and speak about that and you can come up with anything you want to.
Yeah, I think we ought to put a line on our regular agenda for new business in case someone does have it's something that they would like to discuss.
Instead of doing the work session?
I agree with the work sessions, but I do think we need somewhere where we can discuss new ideas that may not have been on the agenda.
Mr. Thomas, you've implied to us that we can't discuss items that are not on this work session agenda, so I guess from my perspective, it seemed like we could put a broad item on there, like discuss new things, and if all we're doing is chit-chatting and discussing and don't give ourselves the opportunity to actually take any action, I'm not really sure that the public's being shortchanged. Now, if we have some broad item on there like discuss education and take any action, that seems a little broad, but if we just want to talk about new ideas but not take any action at a work session.
You can have a new business on a special, but you have to be very specific about what are the items that are going to be on your special agenda. You don't have to tie yourself down, but there has to be, the public has to be able to look at the agenda and determine independently the items that are going to be on there as to whether or not it's of interest. So you couldn't just say new business, but you could put on there new business relating to naming of facilities or discussion of naming facilities. So you're not tied down to just a single facility, which you could talk broadly, but the public has to be able to see the agenda and be able to articulate, yes, that is something that I want to do. If you want to discuss a budget, or if you want to discuss the construction, or if you want to discuss, what are we going to do with the transmission lines for gas lines? It can be a general area, but it has to be specific enough that it informs the community.
So to that end, it wouldn't have to be a mirror of what we're going to do the next week. We could say, actually, hey, I got an idea, let's put on there, this thing and that thing, and those items could be on there for available for discussion. And when we start that meeting, I suppose we still have the ability that, let's say I wanted to put an idea on there and actually put it on the work session agenda. When we start that meeting, the other board members could say, no, we don't want to talk about that. That's a daggone waste of time. So perhaps you could be a little broader as we're still working our way through these work session agendas and topics to put on there that'll just give us the ability to put them on there.
For instance, you could do something like transportation needs. You could put on a work session transportation needs, and then in that transportation need, you could talk about buses or engines or vehicles, cameras, snowplow. I mean, you could say this is what we need for transportation facility needs. So you could make it fairly broad, and discuss a lot of things and I think Mr. Peridot brought it up. Why are these things just now being brought up? And a couple of weeks ago, he said, these are big ticket items. What is our replacement? So you could say transportation needs. You all could discuss how we're going to rotate these needs, or how often are we going to repair. We're going to repair every 5 years, 7 years, 10 years, and you can say we want to replace our fleet every, 10% every year. Those could be things, but it has to be, you could have a general, but it needs to be, the public has to be able to say, hey, they're going to be talking about transportation tonight.
So we have to advertise the work sessions just like we do any other meeting?
It's a special called meeting. Anytime a quorum of this body, since it receives public funds, gets together to discuss, the public has to be informed.
Even though you're not making a decision?
Even if you're not making a decision.
And also in the special, we have to have that agenda.
Yes,
with
correct.
that announcement. Right?
That's correct.
Because they need to know, because a regular meeting, they know that it's their responsibility to find out.
That's right.
But in this situation, because it's
And you
special.
have to send that notice out 24 hours, or to the media 24 hours prior to the meeting.
And in the special meeting, we have the opportunity to, we have the opportunity to add to the agenda if the majority of the board approves.
Not special meetings. Special meetings,
So you can't add.
no, special meetings are,
Can't add anything.
yeah, special meetings are only on their regular meeting. Now, on a regular meeting, you all could have come tonight and said, we want to talk about, you know, the Hubble telescope and how it impacts the school. And you'd say, no, they could say, well, it's not even on the agenda. It's a regularly called meeting. You can add whatever you want. That's why you can have that new business item. It doesn't have to be articulated. This is the regular, the people in the community know that we meet on this particular day because we told them, and they have the right to come in here. Special meetings are kind of like surprise visits. You know, hey, we got to let you know.
But if we put a new business, and that's all we put down there is new business, that's going to be a no action taken.
That's correct.
It has to be understood unless we put it in the agenda when we adopt the agenda saying that we were looking to approve something.
That's
Is
correct.
that-
That's correct.
Did we agree on the 9th?
I thought you said the 11th was good for you.
Oh,
No, either
Wednesday
one.
night.
Yeah, the 9th and 10th
Ninth
for the
is
regional term.
Yeah, 9th and 10th.
okay, so the 11th,
The 11th would be the,
At 6:30?
yes.
Anybody like the idea of maybe eating victuals while we're having this session?
what do you bring?
I don't know. Well, depends on what I could get a coupon for.
I like eating meetings.
You'd be down at the old bread store down here.
They ran out, I was just by there.
Okay, so March the 11th, and Scott's bringing dinner.
Right.
Got it,
The meeting itself would start at 6:30?
yes.
And do we want to do something like just, I guess kind of what Mr. Rice was saying, kind of shoot ideals to Ashley, if you had ideals, is that what we're saying? So that she can just kind of keep a running thing of that, and then that's when it posts, we know what we're talking about at that time. Is that kind of what we're looking?
Yeah.
That's
Sounds
okay.
fine.
That's fine. The only thing, like, and Scott knows this firsthand, it may be something that's going to come up on, like, this meeting. If Scott wanted to add something that we know is getting ready to come up in March, I will tell Scott, hey, well, let's hold that off so we can talk about it in March. So that not everything you come and say may not go on the March work session. It may go on April or whatever, because we may already have a plan of something that's getting ready to go on the April agenda.
But it just needs to be relevant.
Yes.
Relevant about something. I mean, it should, hopefully whatever we're doing in the work session is going to reflect in a regular meeting. So
Right.
Next meeting or two.
And the board still has the ability to, we start at the beginning of that meeting, and you put all these 20 ideas on there, and say, well, let's not do these last 5, we don't have time for that. We can take away from the agenda, we just can't add to it.
That's correct.
But it's a lot of discussion in work sessions. I don't think you want 20 items on an agenda.
Right.
No, just for example, and we won't do the Hubble telescope either.
Yeah, I'm just saying, I mean, that you're talking, I do not have an interest in going back to 4 and 5 hour meetings. Okay, so with that being said, the consent agenda items, would anybody like to make a motion for, or does anybody want to pull anything off of this, actually?
I did have some concerns, which I believe Mr. Christie might be doing some additional research on, or maybe I misunderstood. Let me make sure I get the line item. It's under payables. Yeah, item 35. It's buried within what's in our packet on accounts payable. There's an invoice or multiple invoices from BSN, and I would just like to encourage you and your staff to make sure that they properly applied the applicable discounts that we should be getting from their contract rates. And since we're probably going to be doing some future things with them, and I think we have a good relationship, I'm not sure that it rises to the level that we should hold up payment of this invoice. If you think they would work in good faith with us, let's say this item they inadvertently missed a discount on, that your folks would make sure they reviewed that, and then if they missed something, perhaps they could then give us a credit in the future. Is that a
Yeah, because I'm gonna have to go back through a bunch of them to look.
Well, I was kind of hoping maybe your staff would, 'cause I know you're a busy man.
Well, that's, to me, it's one and the same, and some of us are gonna be doing that. And I will go back through with somebody, and we'll look at those and see. Because I'm aware of the one that you sent me today, and it appears there was no discount added to it.
Okay. Or it could be a difference in definition between catalog and website.
I just looked, yes, I looked at what you sent. I did not go back and pull the invoice and have not researched to see if they've given them in a group somewhere else. I've not got that far with it.
Okay.
Like this.
That's the only concern I had in reading through the payables.
And I have a couple other questions on the same line items. With the BSN, and this may be for a work session. But with that contract, there was rebates, there's discounts, there's also marketing dollars, branding dollars. It's about a year now. We probably need, like to see where we are and where those rebates have come. If we've got any rebates, where they're.
We've not got, you won't get the rebates till the end of the year. You don't get those anywhere in between. You get it to the end of the year when they total up. Sometime probably after June the 30th, they'll total up and there'll be rebates at that point.
We should know though how much we are right now, what the
We can
rebates
go
are
back
going
and
to
look
be.
up, and that's what I want to look, see how much have we actually spent, so we know what we can be expecting. I talked with BSN today, and there was another question about, BSN is involved in some co-ops, and the question was raised, could we buy through those co-ops? And the answer from BSN is no. Yes, we could, but you would get no rebates from any money that you spent there in the co-ops, even though they're the supplier. And he said they're in at least six or eight co-ops. Everything we've done has been direct with BSN. We've not gone to any co-ops.
Also want to point out how the $94,000 or $72,000 bill or invoice, $72,667. I believe that's for the track equipment, if I'm not mistaken, from what I looked at.
That sounds right. I'd have to go back and look.
I would encourage that track equipment being inventoried. I understand it's been stored in several different places. It's sat there for 5 weeks, has not been utilized. Afraid things may walk off.
Had a call in with the track coach today.
And I'm not saying it's coach or anything, it's just, I want to make sure that, it's just, that's a large amount of money. We spend it for our student athletes, and I want to make sure that the equipment is secured. We know where the equipment is, and I'd like to actually see kids starting to use the equipment instead of sitting there.
And if you don't mind me riding your coattails on that one, that same point is on these new invoices also. There's a lot of equipment there that we're buying, but you need to make sure it's secured somewhere and can't just walk off.
It is right now, and we're not bringing any of it out to go with the place that it's to go to. It's finished, with the exception of track and the mats. A lot of those mats, they're a memory type foam, and they were compressed, and they have to be opened up so long so that they expand, and that's why it's all over, and all that equipment is sitting over locked up inside the stadium. It's supposed to go out onto the track, and that was a conversation today about when is it going out onto the track, along with the hurdles and the other things.
Who is responsible for that inventory now that Mr. Calder's brought that up? Like if you gave the track team 150 hurdles, did somebody keep track of that somewhere? Is that?
We know.
I know, we've got certain, a piece of equipment costs so much money, it has to be tagged, correct? Are we doing that as well? I don't know what those mats cost or whatever. What is the amount?
$5,000.
Yeah. Those are being tagged and put in the system.
So things like the goals out there and things like that, I'm sure probably something like that are there. But just a regular, like, somebody's doing, especially right now when we're doing so many POs and you've ordered, $100,000 worth of equipment for a track. Is there a paper somewhere that shows that 100,000, whereas somebody at the end of the year can say, we bought you 150 hurdles and it only shows 95 here right now? I mean, Do we have something like that, an athletic director working with a coach or something?
Supposed to be, yes, but I'll
Volume
follow
that
up
we're
on it,
dealing
their
with?
inventory and everything as it comes.
And I know that has to be a hassle right now, but that's a huge amount of money.
It's
and-
difficult to, well, we're just now getting to the end of, kind of got to the end of football season where you can start the inventory stuff after the season. The track stuff that's now starting to come out, and it's in a central, 2 or 3 central storage locations until they need it, and as they get ready for it, then we pull it out of the secured location and it goes to the site.
At
That
one
time
point,
we should
seemed like
be-
right now, like an athletic director or principal or somebody would be responsible for that equipment, but then when it is issued to that coach,
And the
that
coach
coach becomes responsible for that, but if
Coach
there's not an
may-
inventory thing in there, he's saying, I didn't get 150 hurdles, I got this or whatever. I mean, I just want to make sure that that's seamless in there somewhere, because that can add up a lot of money. We're spending a lot of money on that because we want them to have the best stuff, but we want to take care of the stuff we've got too. And that's a lot of expensive stuff in that track. There's a lot of stuff there.
And if you don't mind, Madam Chairman, since one of the items in the consent agenda is $250,000 towards the field house, I think we can get an update on how that's going.
You should have one in your one.
Well, a forward-looking update.
Oh, okay. I wonder where we are right now.
Buildings themselves are coming along really well. Bad cases are coming in, roll over doors on the field house. If you haven't been out there, encourage you to put your evenings on, come out. Fields themselves, nothing has happened since last month. We just don't have good equipment out there, it's just too swampy. After tonight, it looks like the weather forecast will start cooperating, so they're just
5 days.
waiting on a little bit of weather to get out there and start regrading. You have to finish grade, laser grade the fields, and then put the rock down and start the drainage system.
Trenches.
Yeah, so, but the buildings themselves are coming along really good. Painting's underway, K-13's completed in the field house. The buildings are going to be completed for the fields.
Since you all particularly love it when we ask questions about completion dates, how's it looking in mid-March? Just who knows based upon the rain?
I don't see that.
So we might as well just get it set in our mind that the teams are going to have to play at their existing
We've already
facilities.
had that conversation with coaches. They know they're going to be at their existing, they're already working, we're working those fields already, prepared to open the seasons there, and we'll move on to the new field as soon as possible.
Hope is-
807, you say it's all we
Hope is
want.
to
We
complete
get paid by
at
that.
some point before the season is over. We're just at the mercy of weather for the fields.
I just,
Coaches-
you know, I
coaches
just
are
don't know where
aware
we're
they're
saying, because we'll
preparing
get the
the
question. We
fields.
might as well just tell them the range is put us way far behind.
So what about the field house? I was out there over the weekend, and I know the building's completed, it's doing electrical work, it's painting, they got back cages up. Do we have a ETA on when the field house is going to be done?
Our meeting is Thursday. I'll know a little bit more about that. The
Okay.
turf inside the field house is yet to be released. So that's a big, possibly at some point close to the end of April, possibly.
When you say release, they haven't made it, or they haven't delivered it, or what it's
That
released?
hasn't been put into production. So it's a totally different turf system.
Yeah.
But the resin floors started yesterday. So it's getting there.
My understanding, weights have been ordered, and they're going to be in April?
We've already got.
We already have those, they're in.
Already have all the weights?
We have the weights in. We're not all of them, we've got some of them, and some of them have been put in place in the weight rooms, really gonna be, we held up the delivery, they're ready to be delivered, but we postponed the delivery for another 2 weeks to see where we are on those. They're just waiting to be delivered, they're sitting.
Okay.
I'm assuming that it's like all color-coded, all red, or something like that.
I did not pick the colors on the weight machines or anything, but they were, if it's like everything else we've done, it's all color, red, black, and
It'll look great.
and it'll look good. But I think they are red. I think they're red. I think all the way, they were all matched.
Okay, would anybody like to make a motion?
Thank you, ma'am.
Motion on items number 14 through 34.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Mr. Heisler.
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Richardson. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Item number 35. Motion by Mr. Peardo.
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Richardson. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. I make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
Second by Mr. Heisler. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
You made it.
You made it. My attorney down here is getting antsy. Gotta get him out of here.